If I smelled that bad and someone didn't tell me.
I have only just met you.
Hi, I'm Jester.
Alright, she's the cutest, she's the sweetest, and she's the bluest. We're talking about Jester this week because I honestly thought we wouldn't have this sudden lore dump of everyone else, but whatever, we'll get to them all eventually. And, you know, even though Miss Lavorre hasn't had any recent spoilers, I figured I'll just go ahead and give a spoiler warning to where the campaign is so far, which is episode 56, so go catch up if you're not. Alright, all clear? So, Jester, our resident dick drawer, traveler follower, tattoo artist of the Mighty Nine, and all-around fan favorite. It seems to me that I don't see much shade being thrown around at her, which, come on, who hates the cinnamon roll character of the campaign?
I'm just, you know, a little blue tiefling, that's all, with blue hair, and, you know, I'm wearing like a pretty cute dress, that's all.
No one. I mean, some do, but they're wrong. Because beneath Jester's lovable, excitable, and faux naivete demeanor is an underlying depth of genuine sorrow from years of loneliness and abandonment. As we all know, Jester was born to Marion Lavorre, aka Ruby of the Sea, aka
Best play ever.
And while it's been shown that they are a loving family duo, the nature of Marion's occupation also meant Jester spent a large part of her childhood alone, and thus she was left to foster her creativity in an isolated environment. This led her to the Traveler, a deity that seems to be under suspicion both in and out of the game. We know they rule over mischief and trickery, behaviors that have led Jester to minimal and major trouble. Because as cute and funny as drawing genitalia everywhere is, Jester's prank on Robert Sharp forced her to run away from her own hometown, ramifications that still impact her to this day, hence the need for a disguise when they went to visit Nicodranas. And this isn't even counting the ludicrous disaster that was her not defiling the Platinum Dragon statue in Zadash. A very funny moment, but horribly terrifying if you consider what might have happened to them if they were caught. Their escapade even made it all the way to the town crier, so it's fair to say that Jester has a tendency to get in over her head. And Laura has mentioned this on talk several times. So much of her personal journey so far has been Jester being overwhelmed by the consequences of not only her actions, but of those around her as well. Like her realizing her own mortality, with Jester being pushed close to death several times, and the actual deaths of Mollymauk and Caduceus. Or her faith in the Traveler becoming tested when she was kidnapped by the Iron Shepherds, as well as the general antics of the Mighty Nine. Which makes sense, Jester is one of the younger members of the group, but in there lies one of the most crucial components of Jester, her immaturity, so to speak. Because Jester, as we discussed with every character, probably started off as just a trope, an eccentric girl trope to be more specific. She's very cute, she loves to speak in innuendos, her favorite color is pink, she loves animals, and her favorite food is pastries. And there's nothing wrong with that. But obviously because Laura's really good at this, she clearly thought about how these traits were formed. And as a result, embedded a very deep and well-hidden sense of sadness into Jester. A subtle sorrow that has been omnipresent since she was a child.
Did you see what I did?
I do.
Do you like me again?
Because in Jester's own words,
I'm a really good liar.
for as silly and immature as Jester seems to act, she's not as oblivious to the world as others think or even she pretends to be. A point that Matt has commented upon through Jester's passive insight when meeting with Lady Zethras Olios.
Being as relatively insightful as you are, Jester, there is a thinning patience.
She also has a wisdom score of 20, and her other party members inquire and question her true nature as well, albeit that's mostly Caleb and more a reflection of him. Nonetheless, Jester doesn't seem to be immature. In reality, it's probably something just a little bit more sad. That's not an act, but more of a coping mechanism. Of course, to be clear, Jester's life is not the parent incinerating, drowning reincarnation, lost past tragedy. Marion loved Jester. She had large amounts of wealth at her disposal, and her rambunctious energy was mostly channeled into her art. That doesn't make her any less deep as a character, nor her story any less sad. Jester has shown time and time again to maintain her positivity in the darkest of moments, never allowing the dread to completely break her, and extending that to her party members. That's the love of her mother, the Traveler, and her upbringing showing. But despite all of that, there's also that sorrow that sits within her and highlights one of the truly defining themes and strategies that elevates and boosts her into being such a memorable and lovable character. And lucky for us all, we have the gift and joy of having someone who knows and understands Jester from walking in her boots. I'm sure you know her by now, so I'll let her take it away.
Hello, I'm Ginny D, and I cosplay Jester. One of the reasons I'm so interested in her character is that she's so much deeper and more complex than she seems at first glance. I specifically want to dive into this idea of loneliness and sadness. As Michael mentioned, Jester grew up isolated, without any peers or friends her own age. Other than her mother and the staff at the lavish chateau and, of course, the Traveler, it's unlikely that Jester had any lasting relationships with others while growing up. But the way I see it, her connections with other characters are informed not just by that loneliness, but more specifically by a fear of abandonment.
You promise you won't leave.
After all, Marion isn't the only one who was abandoned when Jester's father left. He left both of them behind, and who knows how exactly Marion explained this to Jester while she was growing up fatherless. We can see this deep-seated fear of abandonment come out every once in a while in the show. For example, after the Iron Shepherds are defeated, Jester can't even bring herself to draw for the Traveler. All she can do is ask him why he abandoned her in her hour of need.
I don't really know what to draw. And instead I just write, But why didn't you come?
And when all of Jester's allies are gone or invisible during the battle with the Blue Dragon in the Happy Fun Ball, the small, frightened way that she tells herself she's all alone is a rare window into the very genuine fear that lives somewhere underneath her happy-go-lucky presentation. Some psychological research has indicated that being a people pleaser is a common tactic used by those who fear rejection or abandonment. Being agreeable is a way to alleviate social stress, and we see this kind of behavior from Jester repeatedly throughout the series. We can see it in action whenever Jester uses her rather aggressive friend-making tactics on others.
Thank you, swear me, Yasha. I don't like
Oh my God.
Now we're best friends. Okay, here's my sickle.
When Dairon tells the Mighty Nine that she doesn't like most people, Jester is quick to verify that Dairon likes her though, right?
I don't like most of them.
But you like me.
She's so intent on making people happy and being a positive force for others that she's even willing to suppress her own feelings and her own trauma in order to put on a smiling face for everyone else's benefit. Ford describes how, when they were being held captive by the Iron Shepherds, Jester would sing to try and cheer the others up.
I was worried. There were really dark times, and I would hear Jester like singing to herself at night, and every morning she would like try and cheer everybody up that was around her, but she had like the muffle, so I couldn't tell like if my brain was playing tricks on me or if she was just, I don't think there's much that gets her down.
Later, when Jester and Ford are watching Jellyfish from the bow of the Mistake, Jester assures Ford that she only gets sad sometimes, and it passes really quickly.
Are you sad, Jester?
Only sometimes. But it passes really quickly.
Which leads me to the strategy that I think guides Jester's characterization, and that is, if you'll allow me to be a little cheeky, duplicity. At a glance, Jester absolutely comes off as a playful, light-hearted character with a lot more whimsy than depth, not just to the viewers of the show, but also to the characters around her. But this facade isn't Jester's true self. Instead, like most real people do, she has a self that exists inside and a different self that she presents to the world. This dual nature suits Jester's themes of mischief and trickery perfectly, while also creating a foundation for a very real, very relatable character with a ton of room for growth and exploration. This second Jester, the one we barely know, is the one that I'm most eager to see revealed as the show continues.
You know when you really like somebody, but then you start to know them, and you go, do I like them, or do I like what I thought they were? And then you think that they are flirting with you, but then you find out they probably weren't, you know? And so you feel like kind of sad about it. And maybe a little stupid?
Exactly. And this duality of Jester doesn't mean either side is ingenuine. Both of these sides of her exist. Despite some of her possibly ignorantly mean comments.
That's more money than my parents ever made in their entire life.
That's what I made like every day for my allowance.
Jester is not malicious, and unlike with the other members of the Mighty Nine, where their contradictions are a bit more consciously aware, Jester, much like the chaos she revels in, exposes a bombastic sincerity of herself that endears and charms everyone, if albeit at the cost of her own and everyone else's time and patience. Does that mean everything works out? No. But as mentioned, that's not only a part of Dungeons & Dragons, but characters and storytelling, and Jester herself. The constant debate of caring about someone but also wanting them to go away, understanding where fun ends and where serious begins. A very good idea for a character who's so chipper and happy, yet whenever you imagine her, you can't imagine her without her defining melancholic shade of blue. Or, in other words, can you believe Laura Bailey is such an amazing actor and super talented and super creative? Well, I suppose it just goes to show that her skills and abilities can't be praised enough. But for now though, that's all I got. Thank you for liking and sharing this critters, and I'll see you next time. But before I go, big thanks to Ginny D for collabing with me on this video. If you haven't already, go check out her channel now to see her in action. She sings, she acts, she cosplays, and it's all amazing. And if that wasn't enough, she did the analysis on this video, so send her all the love, appreciation, and support. Okay, now, see you guys.